Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 60. I am your host and Perrysburg resident, Kim Newlove. This is an informational podcast for prospective, new, and current Perrysburg, Ohio residents. We talk about what's in Perrysburg and why people like to live here. Our website is perrysburgpodcast.com. We are talking about restaurants today. I like to go out to eat. If you like to go out to eat as well, you're going to like this episode. This is the third episode in the Food and Drink series. Part 1 was about ice cream shops, and Part 2 was about coffee. Links to both of those episodes are in the show notes on perrysburgpodcast.com. All right, let's get started. This episode has 3 parts. First, I will talk about the top 10 restaurants in Perrysburg according to tripadvisor.com. Second, I will tell you my favorite restaurants for breakfast, lunch, and dinner here in Perrysburg. And the third and final part is an alphabetical list of Perrysburg restaurants. No, I am not reading the phone book. I organized this list by local versus chain. There are more than 100 restaurants in Perrysburg, including the duplicates. We have, for example, 2 Waffle Houses, we've got 2 Bob Evans, 2 McDonald's, 2 Taco Bells, and so on. And of course, we've got coffee shops and ice cream shops that serve food too, like Twisty Treat and Rudy's Dairy Depot. So I mostly just have restaurant type places on this list, but please keep in mind that if you count places like Twisty Treat, Rudy's Dairy Depot, and the others, we do have more than 100 eateries here in Perrysburg. I will start with the local and chain restaurants that start with the letter A in that list, and then I'll move down through the alphabet. Again, I am not reading the phone book. It's just an alphabetical list because I like to organize information. As I get started with part 1 here, which is the TripAdvisor list, I would just like to mention that anyone who visits Perrysburg and picks a restaurant via TripAdvisor, tripadvisor.com, is looking for good food, good service, and good atmosphere, likely because they're here from out of town. Perrysburg attracts all kinds of visitors, right? So if you're from here, you know that these restaurants are powered by people who live in and around Perrysburg. Sometimes we locals pick our restaurants to support the girl next door or a family that we know from school or church. So if you're a local and you disagree with this top 10 for any reason, I feel you. I have my own personal favorites as well. Without further ado, here are the top 10 restaurants listed on tripadvisor.com for Perrysburg as of September 10th, 2024. These are in reverse order, so I'll go from 10 to 1. Number 10 to number 1. Let's do this. Number 10 is Bar Louie. Number 9 is Rose and Thistle. Number 8 is Nagoya Japanese Steakhouse and Sushi. Number 7 is Stella's Restaurant. Number 6 is Fifth Street Pub. Number 5 is Cocina de Carlos. Number 4 is Biaggi's Ristorante Italiano. By the way, that has the most reviews there on TripAdvisor for Perrysburg. Number 3 is the Benchmark Restaurant. I just call it Benchmark. Number 2 is Basil Pizza and Wine Bar. And number 1 is Swig. Swig is number 1 on TripAdvisor's list of top 10 restaurants here in Perrysburg. There are a couple, just 2 I think, on that list that I have not tried yet. They are Rose and Thistle and Cocina de Carlos. I have been to the Cocina de Carlos out in Waterville, great restaurant. They have a slide in that restaurant, which is blocked off. I'm sure it's for insurance reasons, but when I went in there, I was like, wow, a slide. It reminded me of McDonald's playgrounds a la the 80s. But anyways, back to the ones I have not been to. I will have to try Rose and Thistle and Cocina de Carlos Perrysburg sometime. I will have to try them and compare the Perrysburg location of Cocina de Carlos to the Waterville location. I don't know if there's a slide. I need to find out. And Rose and Thistle is on Louisiana Avenue, and that's in historic downtown Perrysburg. I walk past it all the time at the farmer's market, but I have never been in it. It's on my list. I gotta try it. All right, that ends part 1. Next up is part 2 of this episode. I will tell you my favorite restaurants for breakfast, lunch, and dinner here in Perrysburg. Let's do this. For breakfast, I love the cinnamon roll pancakes at Scramblers on North Dixie Highway. For lunch, I have two restaurants on my list. They are Yalakol and Blue Pacific Grill. Yalakol and Blue Pacific Grill. At Yalakol, very simple, I like the Euro salad. I love the Euro meat, they do it right. And at Blue Pacific Grill, I like to make a bowl. That's what you do there. I put all my favorites in there. Now, if you haven't tried Blue Pacific Grill yet, give it a try. It is delicious. You get a bowl and you put your veggies and your meat in there. And then you tell the staff which starch and sauce you want. So if you can imagine this, you hand over your bowl and then they ask you, do you want white rice, brown rice, noodles, etc.? You let them know and then you tell them which sauce you want. The staff will grill it right in front of you, hence the grill part of Blue Pacific Grill. Bring a couple of dollar bills, by the way. The grillers love tips. What do I put in my bowl? I think I have a kind of weird combination, and I will share it with you now. I like sliced beef, shrimp, tofu if it's firm, and imitation crab meat. For the vegetables and other stuff part, I like broccoli, pineapple, mushrooms, water chestnuts, and whatever vegetables I feel like putting in there. I like 3S sauce. I think it's pretty good. And I like a mix of white rice and zucchini noodles for my starch. White rice and zucchini noodles, half and half. Everybody's got their favorite combination. That's mine. All right, where's my favorite place in Perrysburg for dinner? My favorite is Poco Piatti at Levis Commons. I like the lamb sliders and the fattoush. The fattoush salad is amazing. That ends part two. Next up is my alphabetical list of Perrysburg restaurants. I will mention the local restaurants first and then the chain restaurants second. Please note there is a restaurant whose name starts with the number 5. That one is at the very end. Let's start with the letter A. A is for American Table and Axe 419. Those are your local restaurants there, American Table and Axe 419. The chain restaurants that start with the letter A are Arby's and Agave and Rye. Let's move on to B. B is for Benchmark, Basil Pizza and Wine Bar, Baidu, Berry Bagels, which is a local chain. And then for chains like national chain restaurants, B is for Biaggi's, Burger King, Bar Louie, Blue Pacific Grill, Bob Evans, Buffalo Wild Wings, Bibby Bop, and Balance Pan Asian Grill. C is for China City Buffet, Claude's Prime Seafood, and Cochina de Carlos. For our chain restaurants, we've got C is for Chili's, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Condado Tacos, Cracker Barrel, Culver's, and Costco. I had to put Costco on the list because I have gotten Costco pizza many times, and I think it's good enough to mention as a restaurant, even though we all know Costco is not a restaurant. The pizza's good. All right, let's move on to D. D is for Dickey's Barbecue. That is a local restaurant. D is for Dickey's Barbecue. As far as chains that start with the letter D, we've got Domino's Pizza, Dunkin' Donuts, and Draftcade. I know that Dunkin' Donuts is technically a coffee shop, but they do also have breakfast sandwiches, so I threw that one on the list. Let's move on to the letter E. E is for El Vaquero. I put El Vaquero in as a local restaurant. I know there's a lot of Mexican restaurants by the name El Vaquero, but I think that one is actually a local one. My guess is that it is a franchise. So it's our local location of the El Vaquero franchise. We have 0 chain restaurants that start with the letter E. And now we're on to F. As far as local restaurants go, we have F for Frickers. Frickers is a local chain, like a Northwest Ohio thing. As far as I know, I don't think they've gotten out of state yet. And as far as chain restaurants, we've got Five Guys, First Watch, and Funny Bone. Funny Bone is a comedy club and a restaurant. G is for Grape Leaf and Golf X. I'm not sure if Golf X is a chain, but anyways, it's new to me. And this is on North Dixie Highway, close to Berry Bagels, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, Churchill's, and Subway. All of that's there at the corner of Echo Junction Road and North Dixie Highway. Again, the local restaurants that start with the letter G are Grape Leaf and Golf X. As far as chain restaurants, we've got Ground Round Grill and Bar. That's the only chain restaurant that starts with the letter G. For the letter H, as far as local restaurants, we have 0 local restaurants that start with the letter H. As far as chains, we have 2 that start with the letter H. We have Hothead Burritos and Hangover Easy. I have not been into Hangover Easy yet. That is over at Levis Commons. I believe it's really close to Basil Pizza. Now, on to the letter I. As far as local restaurants, we have Inside the Five. That's the only local restaurant that starts with the letter I. Inside the Five. And as far as chain restaurants, we actually only have one of those as well. One restaurant that starts with the letter I, and that is IHOP. And by the way, I love IHOP, especially in the fall. They have pumpkin pancakes, usually mid September ish. As I publish this on September 13th, 2024, that is right about now. So I will be headed over to IHOP for pumpkin pancakes soon. We're on the letter J now. We do not have any local restaurants that start with the letter J. But for chain restaurants, we have 2. They are Jersey Mike's and Jimmy John's. Now, a word about location. Both of those are on the east side of Perrysburg on Route 20, Jimmy John's and Jersey Mike's. I'm not sure if those are technically Perrysburg Township or Rossford. For me, the line gets a little fuzzy when you get right there on Route 20 east of Kroger. So, anyways, Jersey Mike's and Jimmy John's. Now we're on to the letter K. K is for Kibo House, Kibo, Kibo House, and that's on Louisiana Avenue. It's right where the donut box used to be, the donut shop known as the Donut Box. It's right next to Pizza Hut. And as far as chain restaurants, we've got one that starts with the letter K, and that's KFC. KFC on Route 20. Technically, it could be Rossford or Perrysburg Township. You know where I'm at. It's really close to Target and Home Depot. Moving on to the letter L. L is for Lupita's, Lamplight Cafe, and Lee Garden. Lupita's, Lamplight Cafe, and Lee Garden. Those are our 3 local restaurants that start with the letter L. We only have one chain restaurant that starts with the letter L, and that is Little Caesars. We have 2 local restaurants that start with the letter M. They are Mindful Table, which I think is takeout only. I don't think you can eat inside. And then we also have Madhouse Bar and Grill. That's in Perrysburg Township near First Solar. And as far as chains that start with the letter M, we have Marco's Pizza and McDonald's. I think my son Craig would tell you that Marco's Pizza is the best. N is for Nagoya, Nagoya Steak and Sushi. We have 0 chain restaurants in Perrysburg that start with the letter N. Let's move on to O. O is for Oh Dear Diner and Odd Fodder. Those are local restaurants, and we have 0 chain restaurants that start with the letter O. The letter P is very, very popular in Perrysburg for some reason among the restaurants. For local restaurants, we have Perry's Burgers. Perry's Burgers is burgers and fries. And if you have to pick just one place to go get a burger in Perrysburg and you're visiting, I recommend Perry's Burgers. That is my personal favorite. I love their burgers. And I've even had, I think it's called the Jiffy Burger. Yes, they put peanut butter on the bun, and it's actually really, really good. So check that out. And I love their sweet potato French fries. They are wedge style sweet potato French fries. Love them. Other local restaurants that start with the letter P are the Pioneer Bar and Grill. Pioneer Bar and Grill, that's in Perrysburg Township on the east side near the store that's called Sanciere. Sanciere sells country and western dress apparel. Like if you need some cowboy boots, that's your hookup, Sanciere. And while you're out there, check out the Pioneer Bar and Grill. In Perrysburg, we also have Pizza Pub 516. That is special because it's kind of like Miles Pizza in Bowling Green, if you remember that. tons of mozzarella cheese, a little bit spicy red sauce is so good. Pizza Pub 516. There's also Poco Piatti. That is a two-restaurant local chain, Poco Piatti. And we also have Penta Career Center's Culinary Connection. Have you ever heard of this? It's like a little restaurant at the career center known as Penta. Now, this restaurant type place is only open to the public with a limited schedule and a reservation. So, again, the Penta Career Center Culinary Connection is open to the public, but it has a limited schedule and you must make a reservation. They're only open from 11:30 a to 1 o'clock p. To make reservations, get on the email list so you can see what's on the menu from week to week. Go ahead and email culinaryconnection@pentacc.org to join the email list. Thanks to Jania Makowski. She's a teacher at Penta for the Culinary Connection information. And that wraps it up for the local restaurants that start with the letter P. I know there were a lot. Let's move on to the chain restaurants that start with the letter P. We have Panda Express, Panera Bread, Papa John's Pizza, Penn Station Subs, and Pizza Hut. There you go. We're on to the letter Q. I know this is probably going to come as a big surprise, but we have 0 local or chain restaurants that start with the letter Q. Let's move on to R. R is for Rosario's on 3rd and Rose and Thistle. Chain restaurants that start with the letter R include Red Robin, Reset, and Raising Cane's. Red Robin and Reset may technically have a Rossford address, but again, they're in that Route 20 area on the east side of Perrysburg, and I kind of lump them in with Perrysburg Township. Could be Perrysburg Township to you, could be Rossford. I just call it Perrysburg. S is for Sidelines. That is a small chain within the Northwest Ohio and Southeastern Michigan area. For local restaurants that start with S, we also have the Silver Moon Soda Grill. That's on the east side. I think it's on 795. Six Fifths Distillery, Stella's, Sweet Fish Bubble Tea and Poke Bowl. All one restaurant name, Sweet Fish Bubble Tea and Poke Bowl, and Swig. Those are our local restaurants that start with the letter S. As far as chain restaurants that start with the letter S, we have Scramblers, Sonic, and Subway. Sonic is kind of in that Perrysburg Township, Rossford area on Route 20. T is for Tequila, a very popular Mexican restaurant at the corner of Route 25 and Roachton. We also have Tea Tree Asian Bistro. It is an Asian fusion restaurant at Levis Commons. And there's also Tokyo Express Sushi and Teriyaki. Those are our local restaurants that start with the letter T. Our chain restaurants here in Perrysburg that start with the letter T are Taco Bell and Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Tropical Smoothie Cafe is pretty new to me. I have not been there yet. It's on Route 20 in the Perrysburg Township, Rossford area. We have 0 restaurants that start with the letter U. Nothing local, nothing chain. So let's move on to V. Locally, we have Vito's Pizza. It is a local chain here in Northwest Ohio and Southeastern Michigan. Count it as a local or count it as a chain. Either way, that is the only thing on the list for the letter V. Let's move on to W. W is for Wife's Ramen and Pho. Wife's Ramen and Pho. That is a local restaurant. And as far as chain restaurants, we have 2. We have Waffle House and Wendy's. I believe we have 2 Waffle Houses and 2 Wendy's. No surprise here, there are 0 restaurants that start with the letter X here in Perrysburg. Nothing local, nothing chain. On to the letter Y. We have 3 local restaurants that start with the letter Y and 0 chains. As far as local, we have Yalakol. That is a local chain. There's one in the Perrysburg-Rossford area, and there's one in Maumee. We also have Yum Yummy, which is really close to Kroger on Carronade. And we also have the Ya Ya Kitchen, which is over by Levis Commons. I have been to all of these. They are all very good in my book. And finally, we have the letter Z, and then we'll get to the numbered restaurant. As far as Z, we have 1 local restaurant that starts with the letter Z. It is Zingo's. and that is a Perrysburg favorite. That's in historic downtown Perrysburg. They have Mediterranean food, and it is excellent. No chain restaurants that start with the letter Z. As far as numbers, we have Fifth Street Pub that's on Fifth Street. You'll find this one online under the number 5 plus the letters TH, Fifth Street Pub. That ends part 3, which was an alphabetical list of restaurants in Perrysburg, including Perrysburg Township and Route 20. And that is where the line between Perrysburg and Rossford gets a little bit fuzzy for me. I grew up in Pemberville and I would come into Perrysburg on Route 20 sometimes. The only things there used to be Mosher's Greenhouse, I think it was called. It was a big yellow barn, if I remember right. And then there was Kroger, and my sister worked at Kroger. She worked at Kroger in high school. So there is so much there now on Route 20 between Pemberville and Perrysburg. And, as they built things, my memory of which ones are Perrysburg, Perrysburg Township, and Rossford have gotten really fuzzy. So I apologize if I have claimed some Rossford restaurants here in Perrysburg, but to me, it's all Perrysburg because it's Route 20. If you were adding up the number of restaurants, it is right around 100. 100 restaurants in and around Perrysburg. Again, I didn't count Twisty Treat, Rudy's Dairy Depot, and the other small local shops that we know for ice cream or coffee. I may also have overlooked a restaurant or two. It seems like there's always something new popping up every year here in Perrysburg, and I don't always learn about it until maybe a few months or a year after it opens. But nevertheless, it's a good list, and I hope that you enjoyed hearing about TripAdvisor's top 10 restaurants in Perrysburg, my favorite breakfast, lunch, and dinner stops, and the alphabetical list of 100 or so restaurants here in Perrysburg. This has been the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 60. If you would like to read the show notes, they are on perrysburgpodcast.com. In the show notes, you will find links to the first 2 episodes in the Food and Drink series here on the Perrysburg Podcast, a link to TripAdvisor, restaurant names, and more. If you would like to be notified by email about each episode of the Perrysburg Podcast, go ahead and sign up for the newsletter on perrysburgpodcast.com. You can also get out your smartphone right now and subscribe to or follow the Perrysburg Podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Go ahead and share this episode with anyone you think might enjoy it, anybody who may not know about all these restaurants. Thanks for listening today, and I will talk to you next week.